happy to welcome Florence and Alexandre from Spindle, but they will present themselves. I let you the floor. This is a very interesting workshop. It is focusing on real experiment, real testimony on the health in the health sector, and you will share something that is very insightful for transformation of legacy and administrative sector in a specific sector that is at the heart of everybody's life today because of the pandemic, but not only. Alexandre, I'm very glad to welcome you on stage here at Brainsonic at the heart of Paris for this live session and let you the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luc. So happy to be here too. I'm from Spindle, I'm Alexandre. What is interesting to know about me is that I've experienced lots of management system tools in 23 years of entrepreneurship. And I met 4 years ago Florence, that is on the stage too. That's all for me. Florence?
Hi, I'm Florence CORTES, co-founder of Spindle. Welcome and thank you for attending our workshop. This session will take place in English because we are honored to share it with two special guests from Barcelona, Spain. I'm in Barcelona too. Speaking English is easier for them than French, and Spanish wasn't an option. Maybe next year, Le Breton. This workshop will take you to the heart of adaptation. 2020 has been an amazing period which allowed us to experiment and observe how adaptation works in a complex and uncertain context. At the climax of the COVID crisis in spring, I spent time observing and talking with clients, people, and teams in companies and public institutions. Most of them succeeded to cope with the huge challenges they were facing. The question is how? I observed mainly two ways. And I noticed that François Dupuis in the previous workshop observed the same one, so I'm quite happy about that. The first way is that they bypassed hierarchical organization and skipped most of the procedures, which often led to a stressful turmoil. Have you noticed how agile we are becoming in times of crisis, and how this agility disappears once the crisis is over? The second things I observed, a second scheme, other companies and institutions leaned on adaptive organization already running and agile practices such as effective rituals and autonomy, for instance. Much more smoothly and stressless, for sure. This is what we're going to talk about in this workshop, looking at the real-life experience of one of the major hospitals in the world, the Hospital Clinic of Barcelona. But before this, I would like you to answer a survey, so I will launch it. You have a survey button, and I'm launching this survey. I think that you might show it. So you can tick several options because there are assumptions, and I would like to know with which assumption you agree. So please go ahead and tick the assumption you mainly agree with. Let's say 1 minute maximum, because we're a bit late, I think. I can see the result rising, and I can tell you that it's really interesting. But I will let you know within a few seconds. Let's wait. 33% of the audience has voted, so maybe a few seconds more, please. Go ahead. So go ahead, let's vote. If it's not increasing anymore, I will stop the survey and we'll be able to discover the results. 10 seconds more, 10, 9, 8. Okay, it seems that most of you, I get the majority, so that's fine. So let's discover the results. The majority of this audience think that adaptive organization manage crisis better than hierarchical traditional ones. And that's for sure, and this is the topic, this is what we're going to talk about. This is the major shared assumption. The other ones, you seem to be you seem disagreeing. We're going to talk about this because, for instance, crisis management is different from agility management. It seems that you are only 9% to agree, and for me, I think that it's different. What else? Crisis force organization to become adaptive in the short term. Yes, if you consider that adaptive means an ability to adapt more quickly, let's say. Okay, I won't comment any other assumption. I would like now to. I guess you haven't seen those. I'm sorry. Maybe I haven't shared them with you, so you can now see them. Let's have in mind, and then let's go and talk with our guest. David Fong and David Vidal, you are here. Thank you very much for taking time to share your experience with us. I know that your timetables are fully booked, and it's not because of the COVID, maybe surprisingly, but it's because your hospital is merging with another hospital in Barcelona. So thanks very much, and welcome to this workshop. Can we hear you? Have you?
Hello, hello.
Great.
Hello, thank you, Florence.
It's really a pleasure. Of course, as a beginning, I would like to ask you a few words about yourselves and your hospital, of course, because I guess not everybody know exactly the Hospital Clinic of Barcelona.
Okay, thank you, Florence. Good afternoon. My name is David Fong. I am the Director of Strategy and Planning of the hospital. So one of my main functions is to coordinate the strategic plan, of course, of the hospital. So the Hospital Clinic of Barcelona is a high-tech, high-complex hospital with around 800 beds, with around 5,000 people as a staff, and with a budget of 180 million euros. It's a public hospital. It's the first hospital in Spain in research, and one of the 25th best hospitals in research in the world. In a recent ranking published by the magazine New Week, is ranked as the 21st hospital in the world based on the opinion of professionals, of patients, and based on the outcomes of the hospital comparing with other hospitals. So it's a very competitive hospital, but also is a public and quite hierarchic hospital. Now in the strategic plan, in the present strategic plan called the New Clinic Universe, we are focused on two strategic lines. One is to increase our patient orientation. So we have a program called Patient Experience to analyze and to understand the needs of the patients, and for example, to involve them in new programs like a new space, a new facility, or for example, the design of the new web of the hospital. For example, they prioritize, and these are important projects in our strategic plan, the management of pain, nutrition, rehabilitation, the manage of the end of life, and so on. The other strategic line is to involve professionals in the strategic plan and to create a real professional network. There are 43 projects in the plan involving more than 1,000 professionals. So we are trying to create this real network. And for example, one of the main issues of the strategic plan is to prioritize values that are three: generosity, trust, and gratitude. And it exists a code, a good practices code, to implement these values. So in this situation, we discover with David Vidal the agile governance. We discover Spindle, we discover Florence, and we discover this methodology, as we will talk in the next questions.
Okay, David Vidal.
Hello, my name is David Vidal. I am a computer scientist and a master in ICT management. I've been the Chief Information Officer for the last more than 13 years in Hospital Clinic. I've been leading, as the Chief Information Officer, a team of more than 100 people in the digital transformation of the hospital to a paperless hospital. We are also involved in some projects related to innovation, dealing with artificial intelligence and everything related to data-driven healthcare units. And we started keeping in touch and being introduced in agile management of, first of all, agile project management for the last 4 years. And 2 years ago, we met Florence and Spindle, and we started implementing the agile governance model in our department.
Okay. Can you tell us how did you do it, just to figure out what happened?
Yeah. Okay. In fact, we are quite agile organization. For example, in front of the patients, no. For example, in the emergency department. But as I said, we are also a bureaucratic and hierarchical organization with plenty of levels when we try to make a decision. So that's why we decided to implement agile governance, no? And our strategy was first to begin at the top of the organization, working with the management, the general management committee, and also to introduce this methodology in the IT department, in the department of David Vidal. And then we understand that the department of David Vidal, because it works in projects, will expand this methodology with people of other areas or departments that are involved in these projects. So this was more or less our implementation plan of this methodology. Okay, David, Vidal, maybe a few words.
Yes, of course. As I mentioned before, 2 years ago we started this adventure, having our background in the agile project management. So we understood what a sprint was, what doing short-term developments and minimum viable product and concepts like that. And
so you knew a bit of agile methods. You were using a bit of Scrum and others.
Yes, exactly.
But the organization were really hierarchical, and we can say also that in Spain, a boss is a boss.
Sorry.
I said that we could also explain that in the Spanish culture, a boss is really a boss.
Yes. Yes, we do agree. And as David has mentioned, our organization as a hospital, which is an old model of organization, is so hierarchical. So this meant we had a great challenge, and we also were hierarchical in my department. And the challenge was that we needed to break silos. We had different small departments inside my IT department, and they were working as they weren't together. So that's why we decided, after the experience of agile project management, which conducted us to small groups working together and with short-term sprints, we started with the help of Spindle introducing this model. So we started creating circles. The organization is based on circles, and inside the circles you have roles, which is very different from what we understand as function. A role is smaller, and a person can energize. Let me talk in the agile language. Can energize plenty of roles in his during the day. This allowed us to break the silos. So in a circle, you put together people from the old hierarchical model working together. So this means that they can develop better solutions in shorter term, in a more flexible way. And this we started with a circle called Agile Transformation, which helped us to transform our organization. And we start creating different circles depending on our needs. And I can explain a few examples. We have a circle called Office 365, which is a major digital transformation project in our hospital. And we needed to have all the different roles, the different people involved in the let me say project, but for us it's a product, which is a bit more a bigger thing, because we'll have this product for plenty years, a lot of years. So, and this is how we understand things. And then we started putting people from outside our department inside this circle. So we started like expanding the agile governance model to other people in the hospital. We also have another example, which is the project that Florence mentioned at the beginning, that we are merging with another hospital. We include people from the other hospital in our circle. And the project is amazing because they were like astonished by the way we did the meetings, what we call the synchronization meetings. They were really astonished because they were fast and easy, and a lot of decisions were taken in an hour every time we met.
Okay, let's go back to the crisis and to the COVID crisis, and tell us, basically as a CIO, what did you have to face in spring 2020, and how did you overcome this crisis thanks to adaptive organization?
Yes. Well, actually, it was a great challenge for us. We had 95% of our team at home, which meant we moved from seeing each other in a daily basis to not seeing each other. We started like teleworking, everybody, and as far as we were in the agile governance model, which gives the people these roles I mentioned before, the full autonomy on their own decisions, on their responsibility domain, which we call authority. They have full authority, so they can take their own decisions in their domain of expertise. And this was made us easier to perform and to be able to adapt to the needs that were every day changing. Every day we had to move words, to convert regular words in an ICU, to start up a hotel with 500 beds. We did in a week, together with other people in the hospital, but we were taking profit of our way of doing things. And well, a lot of different changes we were facing every day during the crisis.
What would have happened if the crisis had struck before the implementation of your adaptive organization? To which extent was it useful? Because we could imagine that your department would have put in place some crisis management regular methods.
Yeah, I can say that we previously did, and I can tell you, to be honest, that I know other hospitals that have faced the crisis. They did good too, but I think that we did much better. Even I can say that the steering committee of the hospital congratulated us after the crisis was like calmed, because we were able to give answer to any requirement we're getting every day, like so easily. And for me, I don't think we could even imagine facing in the same way. Of course, we should have solved any issue, but not in the same pace. It was really fast, easy, and a lot of autonomy of the people. The people were doing things on their own. I wasn't every day like following up everybody, because it was impossible. We were away from each other.
So the difference is really the speed, the pace, maybe stressless also?
Yes, because, well, you've mentioned in Spain, a boss is a boss. And I have to tell you that I wasn't behaving as a boss as we understand in Spain, because I was trusting that everybody was going to perform the best in their authority, in their roles. And that was happening. I wasn't behind people. It wasn't necessary. So
that's what's cooler for you too.
Yes, of course.
But maybe a question about at the very beginning, when you implemented this agile organization, what were you challenged as a boss? Because in 2029, you were a real boss, and everybody was going to your office to ask what they have to do. So how did you manage this shift, which is really a huge one?
Yes, I would say for me, two major challenges. The first one was myself changing my mindset, that I wasn't there to tell people what to do. This is, at first glance, it seems like, wow, it's kind of a big change, and you have to sometimes stop and think before talking what I'm going to say to this person. Because now what I usually say is I suggest something. I don't give an order. This is the main difference. And if I see it from the other side, you find a lot of people that don't like not having a boss. This is what we call the change management. You need to change the mindset in all the team. And there are people that are early developers. They understand really good the model, and they start like running. They go far away. And other people is like coming back to your desk and asking you, "Oh, can I do this? Can I do?" I always answer, "It's your authority. If you want, I can suggest you something, but you decide." And this is a challenge.
Thanks very much. Yeah, David Fong, as a strategy director, what did you learn from these agile practices, and how did you change the way you manage the hospital strategy?
Yeah. Okay. First, my direct implementation with these methodologies was in the General Management Committee, as I said. In this committee, there are many of issues that are very operational, and we need coordination and synchronization between the members of this committee. And at the same time, there are some strategic issues to treat in this committee. So in the past situation, there are mixed all these kind of issues, the strategic ones and the operational ones. With your methodology, we created. We began to work in synchronization meetings that permit us to identify a clear list of to-dos and follow it, and to be more flexible, more agile, and to identify time for strategic issues that need more time and more thinking. So we split the operational issues and the strategic issues. This was very interesting, and also increased our active listening. So it was very important to introduce this methodology in our steering committee. Okay, and at the same time, we use also the methodology of strategic meetings, and that permit for me to think about our strategic plans. So for me, it's important to have a vision for 4 years or for 8 years, but then it's important to act in weeks, in months, not in years, and to act and to make mistakes and to learn about these mistakes. I think this is the way to move the strategy of the hospital, of the organizations. Of course, with a vision for 4-8 years, but acting in the short time.
So now your strategy is run with agile approach, which means with iteration, trying, experimenting.
Yeah, that's it. And also, what's very interesting is that the last meeting, the last steering meeting before the crisis, before coronavirus pandemic, the last to do was to create a COVID committee, a crisis committee, composed by the medical director, the nursing director, the head of infectious disease, and the communication director, in order to manage the crisis, the pandemic, no? And this is a real agile committee, because day by day they make decisions, they make mistakes, and they correct. So it's very interesting that when we return to the steering committee, because there was a period that everything changed. When we returned to the steering committee, we said, okay, the last to do was to create this committee of crisis to manage the crisis.
Okay, so if you to the audience, to the participants of this session, if you have any question, it's time to write them in the chat, because our guests will be able to answer. Maybe meanwhile, both David, what would you advise to a public or private organization willing to increase their agility to be, let's say, better and to manage better the next crisis? Because it seems that anyway we'll have next crisis, health crisis and other ones.
Yes, I would say that at first the first thing is to be courageous, because you need to start on yourself as a manager to change mindset. And if you don't start yourself, it's not possible that you make your team move forward. That's the first thing. And I said that before. For me, the major issue is change management, making people change mindset and understand the goodness, the good things that you can obtain by applying this methodology. This way of, for me, it's more a way of thinking, because it's something. David was saying that a mistake is not a mistake, it's an opportunity. And this is the major change you have to start doing, because in our cultures, in Southern Europe, Latin cultures, mistake is something wrong, something that you are punished for. And when you start changing this, first of all, you need to make people believe that they won't be punished if they fail, because if you fail, you change. And you change in really short term. We can change our organization every week. Every week we can put different things in place. And this is fantastic, because when you can change things, you always say, if something doesn't work, just change it. Nothing happens. And this makes it easier to evolve and to finally reach things that you could never imagine. And for me, this is what I would suggest to people to start.
Yeah, and perhaps another idea is that I think there's no other way, but because it's necessary to create this real knowledge network, it's necessary to identify knowledge, to connect knowledge, and to profit from this knowledge. Okay, so I think that's the only way to empower people and to create around this knowledge, not around the hierarchy positions.
To all of them to share their knowledge and to I think that it seems to me that you've implemented also co-development in the hospital, and I guess it's useful also to share knowledge and practices for the employees.
Yeah. This is another methodology that was implemented in the hospital. Yeah, the idea to work in teams that. In every session, there are people who are consultants to a client, that this client is one of the, okay, everybody is in the organization, one of the clients present a problem, a situation to solve, and the other people of the organization help him to discover opportunities and to solve this situation. So this is another methodology implemented in the hospital during this strategic plan.
Yeah, you have experimented a lot of things. Okay, so let's go to the chat. Alexandre, do you want to share with us the questions? Maybe you have to open your microphone. I don't know which one you use, your computer one or the microphone you have in hand, sorry. Maybe I can take one. I can take a.
Yeah, I can.
There's an echo.
Yeah, it works. Okay, thanks.
Okay,
few questions about the first one is an easy one. How long does it take to achieve that? And when did you have the first results?
Well, I think it takes forever. It's something that it's endless. We started, as I said, 2 years ago in February 2018.
19.
19? Yes.
I think so.
Yes. Sorry, you're right. 19.
Yeah.
We started, well, my first interaction with you was in late 18. So we started in February 19, and I would say that in 3-4 months, we already had a structure of circles that at first glance, they were close to the previous hierarchical model, but they started evolving. And for me, it's very important when I saw the first circle that was full of different rows from the different previous areas that we had in the department. That for me was something like we won. We started winning there, because it was like, this is an example of the silos breaking, and naturally, because we had plenty of issues in the previous times with that, because they were working as if they were different companies inside the hospital, and they were, sometimes it looks like they were fighting, and this is like something that you get really surprised watching this.
How long did it take between the beginning to the moment you said we won?
Well, between 4 and 6 months.
Okay, thanks. Alexandre, another question?
Yeah. What did you do with resistance people to embrace the change and the personal introspection period? So how do you do?
I like the question. I like very much this question, because, I've read a lot of change management, and I think you have to focus on, first of all, on early adopters. You have to forget at the beginning on this kind of people that are against the model, because it's the effort is not worth. So it's easier to start with people that like it and behave like this will spread alone. And when people start seeing, you have the people in this side and people on the other side, the people in the middle start following the early adopters, and this is kind of a chain reaction. And you need, of course, today I have to tell you, 2 years later, we still have some elements, some persons that they don't still like, or they are not still comfortable with the model, but it's normal, and we have to deal with it. But the spread has been really, really good, and a lot of people is like feeling comfortable and liking the model.
Anyway, the hierarchical model, lots of people don't like it either. Alexandre, another question?
Yes, there is one. What are line workers and managers saying about the feeling of working at the hospital now as compared to before? How do they describe the change in personal terms?
No, I have an answer, and I was asking him if he has something to say. From my point of view, as a manager, you have to know that the difference from pre-COVID to now is that we are teleworking 2 days a week. This is like has become regular for us. And when you work from home, a lot of people say, I work much more than before, because it's like I don't stand up from the chair, because I change from one meeting to the other like this. And when you work in the office, you can stand up, talk to people, go to another meeting in another place, and this is different. So I think the mixer is important. Is very important. And going to agile is like, if they are home, you lose this physical contact with people. You know, we are Spanish. We like talking to people closely, and we love, and we miss that a lot. And that's what people say. Everybody.
Maybe one or two last questions, because we have a last part with you, Alexandre.
Yes. What did you do with the early adapters? Did you protect them? Did you valorize them? What did you do with the early adopters that can be in difficulties in front of the others?
Typically, the early this concept of protecting for me doesn't fit to agile governance at all. Doesn't fit at all. For me, an early adopter for me is someone that follows the leader. In this case, the leader thinking, the mindset, and behaves by example, so other people can follow him. And in our case, I would say that in the circles that are working much better, typically the leadling, which is the guy that somehow leads the circle, but in a different way than a boss, typically is an early adopter. And this helps us that things work. It's not a way to protect them, but it helps, because I have to tell you that in this model, the only thing that stays hierarchical is that the leadling, who is the kind of the previous boss with different accountabilities, different responsibilities, decides who fills a role, or who is the leadling of a sub-circle. And this is kind of a power that you can give to people that is prone for the model, and it's an early adopter. This is somehow a way to protect. And I wouldn't like to say protect, because for me it's not that.
Thanks very much. Is there a last question, or that's okay, Alexandre?
I think it's okay. Most of them have been answered, and I'm going to answer to the others. So.
Great. So let's go to the last part of our session. And as I told you at the beginning, we're gonna get into the heart of adaptation. So Alexandre, can you explain us how adaptation works in a day-to-day basis, individually and collectively as a team? Whatever the method, which holacracy, sociocracy, whichever, how adaptation works, including in crisis times, for instance.
Okay, so let's go. So I'm going to show you. Can you see my slides? Yeah, you can. So I'm going to talk about the image model. It's the model we use to mentors the companies and the teams and the individuals. So that is the image model. So it guides the team or the organization to build, to discover, to make their own adaptation system to evolve. So it's not methodologies that you have to apply. When you use this kind of model, you need to find your own way of to adapt. You have to, depending on your culture, your values, your objectives, your context, you have to your talents, you have to find what is your own system of adaptations. And you can find it only in trying to adapt. So this model I'm going to show you is a way to find a path that helps you to find your own model. So let's start. What means to adapt? It's the first question, what means to adapt? It's two things. It's change the way you see the world and change the way you interact with the world. It means that if you have the same glasses and the world has changed, you will be inadapted. If you continue using the same way to interact and the environment has changed, you are inadapted. So you have to change what you believe and the way you interact to be able to adapt to what's happening. So what we do know, that when you change your beliefs, your own beliefs, you can change, you have the opportunity to change the way you interact with others, and with your clients, with your environment in general. But what we don't know so much, it's when you change the way you interact, you create the opportunity to change what you think about the world. I mean, for instance, if you met a Japan guy and you want to say hello, you will raise your hand to him and you will show your hands to him and he will look at you and say, what are you doing? And he's going to say hello in its own manner. You can just say, okay, it's not polite people because you don't shake my hand and so on. It's what you believe. And if you try to say hello as they do, if you try to eat as they do, you sleep as they do, you are going to see what they see, how they see it. So when you change the way you interact, you change the way you see the world. So usually we start with that one. We don't explain so much about belief, what is agile and so on, because you can talk about that during years and years. We just give new way of interacting, so just to see what's happened. For instance, I'm always surprised that all Monday morning, all the steering committee are 3 hours in meetings, and when you ask them how many hours, minutes is useful for you, I've perhaps interviewed perhaps hundreds of them, always they said 15 minutes. So there is 15 minutes useful on 3 hours. So the way you interact generates beliefs. When you change your belief, you change your interaction. When you reveal a new way of working, more faster, more easier, they are going to change the way they see the world. So how would you do that loop between belief and interactions? To change. It's not change your belief and change your interactions. If you don't have purpose, it's just agitations. You're just moving from opportunities to fears and so on. So you need to have a direction, a purpose, something that you want to manifest to the world. Adaptations is not to change. It's to actualize the way you think, actualize the way you interact. So how you do that more concretely? First of all, you act. Because you act, you will get feedbacks from the environment. Because you have feedbacks, you can observe new phenomena, new things, new opportunities, new risk. And what you observe, you will have what we called in sociocracy, in holacracy, and even in English, tensions. It means the difference between what you can observe and what you believe. It's not good or bad, it's just a difference, a gap. We say tensions because gap is full of emptiness. It's not full of emptiness in tensions, it's just something you don't know and you need to discover. So you observe, you have tensions between what you observe and what you believe. You will have the opportunity with these tensions to change the way you see the world. I will say like a map, you have a map of the world, it's your belief, and you orient in this map with your belief. And when you apply this map to your belief, you will have some hypothesis, because in uncertainty you don't have knowledge. You have, of course, knowledge, but you have most of all hypothesis. With this hypothesis, you will going to decide what you are going to experiment, and then you act, and then you have feedbacks, you can observe, have tensions, so some gaps. You orient, change your way of thinking, new hypotheses, and so on. And the more you do that frequently, the more you will be adapted. You have the opportunity to be adapted to your environment quickly. So that's models. It's ODA loops that you can find on John Boyd, for instance. That is the first I've explained this model. How you can do that collectively, because that model is individually. It's you that you observe. It's your belief. It's you that decide what you are going to do or not. And when you are on your PC, on your line, it's you that are acting. So how you can do that collectively? So you have, first thing, you learn from the feedbacks from each others, from the others, all together. And afterwards, you have to share your tensions. You have to share the gaps. You have to share what's the difference between what you can observe and what you think you should have, you could have, you want to have. You have to share. If you can't share, there is no fuel in your loop. So this is the fuel, the tensions. Afterwards, you have to explore the hypothesis you have found, that one or that one, and at the end, you have to decide what kind of hypothesis you are going to explore and to experiment. Because when you are in uncertainties, you don't know what is going to happen. You have to experiment. And at the end, you prepare the experimentations, and then you act, and so on. So there is two loops. The first one is individuals, ODA. The second one is share, explore, prepare, and learn. Last thing, it's the environment. It's useful to have an environment that will help these two loops to work. David Vidal was talking about the ODA loop and the role. What is a role? It's someone that is doing OODA alone. It means that have the autonomy, the authority to observe something, to have the useful things to orient, then decide, and then act. And if you don't have the environments that help to do these two loops, actually it can become difficult. Last but not least, if you have to remember one thing, I will say, I suggest you to remember 6 principles from this model. The first one is promote everything that allows the sharing of gaps. Because I told you just before, it is the fuel of the model. If there is no gap, there is nothing to actualize, there is nothing to change. So this is the first step. Second principle, reasoning by hypothesis is important. If you believe that you know when you don't know, you're not able to change. So make some hypotheses. Talk about how much you believe in what you believe. I mean, not yes or no, true or false, I agree, I disagree, you're wrong, I'm right. But okay, I believe I perhaps 70%, I 60%, and you 10%. So you can have, you can explore all together when you are more subtle in the way you interact. Third one, decide from the purpose. When a decision has no value if there is no destination. So try to decide from the purpose, because in uncertainties, this is not the only thing, but an important thing to be able to orient all together. Foster experimentation. Don't stay too much in thinking, because when you don't know, you don't know. To discover what's happening, I suggest you to go to the experimentation quickly. And I suggest to actively collect feedbacks. Not just get feedbacks or have feedbacks or accept feedbacks, but actively collect feedbacks. They can be not pleasant or pleasant. It's not the point. The point is to get the feedback, to be able to observe, to find tensions, and to solve quickly the situations or to adapt to the situations. Last but not least, redesign your environment. It means try to adapt your environment, your structure, your organization, so that these 6 principles can be expressed in your team, in your people, from your people, and that's all. This is the 6 main points. I suggest you to think about it. I would like to dive into each box, but we have not so much time, so I'm going to show you some links to dive into it if you are interested into emergent model. So perhaps you have some questions about all of that.
Yes, I think that maybe we came to the end of the session. Maybe we have a few minutes to the Luc or Olivier, tell me if we have to close or we can take some questions. Seems that it was very clear because I don't see any question. Just maybe I can share with you some.
The question is, after the first confinement, did you notice the reappearance of bureaucracy?
So this is a question to David Vidal and David Fong, I guess. I've seen it. Can you answer?
Yes. We can try. in my case, no, because as we are an agile governance organization, we haven't come back to the previous way of doing things. But in general, in the hospital, maybe I can ask David to answer.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it's easy to be agile when the pandemic. Yeah, and we return to the normal situation. We return sometimes in the old practices. No. Yeah, in a part, yes, it's like this.
Okay, so what are you going to do maybe in the next month or in your next strategy to improve this? Because I know that you want to. It's difficult because it's a public institution, and of course you have to deal with a lot of bureaucracy. But do you have some ideas of how can you deal with it during the next month or years?
Yeah,
in order to improve?
Yeah, as I said, I think we need to increase our synchronization meetings in other kind of committees, not only in the managerial committee, but in others. Also, as I said, the strategy is to expand this agile governance using the projects of David Vidal, with other departments, as he explains. And also, I think we need to introduce this methodology, for example, in the new strategic plan, in this project. For example, there's a project called the Hospital with Values, and we will try to work in circles with roles in this Hospital of Values. Okay, this is the new strategic plan, and we think that we can introduce this way of working in all the projects of the new strategic plan. We are in these ideas now.
So you are going to Pollenize the hospital with agile organization and practices. That's great. I see a last question maybe, and then Alexandre.
We don't have any time left, sorry, but very interesting. Thank you, David and David, for all your sharing and your insightfulness. Thank you very much. I'm going to send you some links if you want to dive into the emerge model or on the experience afterwards. So thank you to all. Goodbye.